Boy, do I know that feeling. And I hope you haven't been on the other end of the angry red pen. Hi, Tom McIntyre here, your instructor. And rather than wait for a problem to happen and then react to it, the emphasis is always on prevention. So I thought, in addition to some other things that you'll find on the Blackboard site, perhaps this audio would help to better explain and give some clarity to some of the parts of the syllabus that might seem a bit complicated or obfuscated. So we'll spend 6 to 10 minutes here talking about some of those we have on purchase. It's going to be a self-help book for kids. They're all available at freespirit.com, and depending on the characteristics of your focus learner, the child you will be studying and making recommendations for this person, for this individual. If the youngster is very active and very distractible, has been diagnosed with ADHD, or shows some of the symptomology of that condition, then you would purchase that book. It will again assist us with part 2 of that 3-part paper, the CAB-MR. If the youngster has the condition that places him or her on the autistic spectrum, then you would purchase that survival guide for those kids. If your youngster has outward behavior, it is defiant, it is non-cooperative, it might be hostile, it might be agitated behavior, then you'll want to pick up the survival guide for kids with behavior challenges. If you think that your youngster's behavior is due to a struggle with learning, a frustration at not being able to grasp content easily, then you'll want to pick up the Survival Guide for Kids with LD. Now, those of you in the Deaf Ed program, there isn't a book out there that I've been able to find. If you know of one, please let me know. But you'll see in the syllabus and also on our Blackboard site that I've recommended some books and some articles that will assist you in doing well on part 2 of our 3-part paper. So yes, indeed, it is time to get started, because given how the organization, how our course is organized, and the progressive nature of this 3-part paper, you can't say, oh gee, the due date for part number 1 is coming up next week, I better get started on it. No, it's going to take some time and some planning and some preparation, some observation in the classroom to be able to write each of the 3 parts of the paper. So you're going to have to stick with this course and be actively involved in this course for the entire semester rather than waiting for due dates to approach. Let's talk a little bit more about that 3-part paper. In part 1, you're going to identify a focus learner, a youngster whose behavior is at times inappropriate for the classroom setting. And you're going to identify a target behavior, an action that this youngster displays on a frequent basis. You're going to be collecting data, some numerical information on that behavior. How often it happens, how long it happens, what percentage of time it's happening. And so you're going to have to define this behavior specifically. Most students start out saying, oh, this is the easy part. I find a student, I identify a behavior, and then I decide how I'm going to go about recording this data. I'm going to use a stopwatch, or I'm going to make tally marks every time it happens. But this is actually the most difficult part of the course for most people. Coming up with an observable and measurable and precise definition of that behavior. We can't just say, well, when the kid gets out of the seat, or when the kid calls out an answer. No, we have to describe what would be witnessed by the observer, where we say, there it is. But how do we know it's happening? What actions are we observing? And then in part 2, you're going to report the data that you've collected. You'll have your graphs and your grids, and you will analyze that data and make some sense of it. At what time of day is it happening? And does it happen more with one teacher than another teacher? And you're going to make suggestions on how we can teach better behavior choices, more appropriate behavior being displayed. How can we help that focused learner in the classroom? Additionally, in part 2, how can we help this youngster behave better at home? How can the home and the school partner in the best interests of this child? Now, in part 3, we're going to have a completely different focus. We're no longer going to be focusing on an individual focused learner. We're going to be focusing on the teacher and how the teacher has designed the classroom, whether the teacher is proficient in different classroom management skills that we've learned about through the semester. If you wish, you can evaluate yourself if you're teaching in the classroom at present. Yes, we talked too about how there are a number of quizzes in this course. They are on our Blackboard site. You take them and they are scored immediately. Multiple choice questions. Now the neat thing about the quizzes though is you can take them as many times as you wish to do so until you get a grade with which you're satisfied. Heck, you could go there right now not having looked at the learning module that's being assessed in the quiz and just get an idea, a feel for the questions and what the content, what content is being queried. You can take these tests, these quizzes, as many times as you wish, and on the gradebook feature of Blackboard, it will display your highest score. So if you've taken the quiz 8 times, your highest score of the 8 will show in gradebook. That's the score that will be used in calculating your final course grade. Some other things we ought to address before we leave this this video, is I set due dates for the submission of the different parts of the CAB MR. Part 1 is due on this date, Part 2 the other date, Part 3 on another date. You get bonus points if you meet that deadline, if you get it in on that day. Gosh, that's just about it. I'm sure you must have some other questions. And given that this is a fully online course, we're going to have to schedule a time to talk. I mean, we can do it by email, but sometimes it's difficult to get a point across via email. And so we can schedule a phone appointment. If we need to see each other or see some product, we can schedule a Skype or a FaceTime or a Zoom video conference. I'm here to assist in any way I can. I want to see you leave this course knowing a whole lot more than when you came in, because every semester, I leave the course knowing more than when I went in. I look forward to learning from you and for us to share knowledge and skill back and forth. Please do contact me at any time.